Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
A Clay County 11-year-old is in the hospital after a friend threw boiling hot water on him as part of the so-called hot water challenge. His mother is now begging other parents to educate their kids on the dangers of pranks like this. WYMT's Will Puckett has more on the boy's condition tonight.
Billy Oliver is just a kid.
It was a 10. If it was a 1, well, 0 to 10, how bad it was a 10.
But this kid's life has been turned upside down when this happened.
So you had to take some boiling hot water at 212 degrees and throw it on someone, or you had to drink it.
The little game that left Billy with 2nd and 3rd degree burns is called the Hot Water Challenge.
It is a challenge that's going around the internet that while you sleep, they boil the water and they pour it on you, or they drink it.
We did a quick YouTube search that pulled up videos and stories done by other stations about this challenge.
Hot water challenge!
While we cannot independently verify the video's authenticity, Patricia Oliver says this points to a frightening trend nonetheless.
Education is the only thing that we can do right now. The parents need to speak. You need to talk to your child. Because my child had stayed many of a night with this boy, I would have never put him in danger, would have never thought. But it's a challenge, and
A challenge with frightening consequences that has put this 11-year-old in a burn unit 3 hours away and has a mother begging other parents to be aware. In Clay County, Will Puckett, WYMT Mountain News.
Doctors are optimistic that Bill will go home tomorrow. Now, we reached out to the Clay County Sheriff's Department, who say they are investigating this incident. An elderly Eastern Kentucky woman was murdered in her home. The Owsley County coroner says 82-year-old Olsey Bowling was murdered a week ago today. A family member found Bowling's body in her home on Winkler's Branch Road north of Boonville. The sheriff says there was a struggle with a, quote, unwanted visitor. Police are still searching for suspects. In February, 26-year-old Jordan Tackett went missing in Floyd County, and in April, his body was found in a shallow grave. Today, Wesley Martin, the man accused of killing Tackett, was scheduled to appear at the Floyd County Justice Center for a pretrial hearing. Many of Tackett's family and friends came to the courthouse because they say they wanted to honor his memory as they seek justice for Jordan.
Very smart and very bright. He would give the shirt off his back to anyone. He would do for anybody. And I just don't know why this happened. It should have never happened.
A trial date for Martin is not known at this time. A man is facing new federal charges after the death of a Whitley County mother. Daniel Nance is already facing federal kidnapping charges. Investigators say he was involved in 29-year-old Jerry Johnson's death. She was pregnant at the time. Police say she was dropped off at a hospital after being shot. Johnson later died, as did her child. Victor Puente is going through Nance's new indictment, which reveals a potential motive.
That federal grand jury claims Daniel Nance murdered his pregnant girlfriend because he was worried about her talking to law enforcement about his work selling meth. According to this indictment, Daniel Nance could face the death penalty if he's found guilty. Jerry Johnson was 7 months pregnant when she was dropped off at Baptist Health Hospital in Corbin on March 16th. She had been shot in the neck and shoulder. Before she died at that hospital, she gave birth to a daughter. That child would be taken to UK's Children's Hospital, but died days later. State police had said they would pursue murder and fetal homicide charges against Daniel Nance, but a Commonwealth's attorney tells me right now he's only facing federal charges. Those include tampering with a witness, kidnapping, conspiracy, and gun charges. The indictment says Nance killed Johnson with the intent to prevent communications between her and law enforcement. It appears that federal investigation was already ongoing when Johnson was killed. Nance will be here in federal court on July 31st to be arraigned on those charges. In Laurel County, Victor Puente, WYMT Mountain News.
Another man, David Huff, has already pleaded guilty to federal charges connected to this case. He's scheduled to be sentenced in August. The Department of Justice says it will resume federal inmate executions. In a statement, Attorney General William Barr said the move is focused on justice. Only 3 inmates in the federal system have been put to death since federal executions were reinstated in 1988. The last one happened in 2003. Robert Dunham of the Death Penalty Information Center says public support for the death penalty, though, is waning.
American support for harsh punishments is eroding. We're seeing that those jurisdictions that are seeking criminal justice reform are also seeing lesser and lesser use of capital punishment.
According to the Death Penalty Information Center, there are 62 federal inmates currently on death row.
I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but the forecast the last few days has been basically perfect, and we'll take it. Every drop we can get out of it. Let's take a look at the cameras across the region right now. US 119 up on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountain. Everything pretty quiet up there, and traveled across there earlier today. Beautiful scene. And over at Stonecrest Golf Course, not a cloud in the sky right now outside of Prestonsburg. And finally downtown Whitesburg, everything looking pretty nice there as a nice evening unfolds. Live pinpoint Doppler radar, nice and quiet as we head into the evening hours. Been getting a break from the action for the last several days, and will from the next several days before things start to pick back up again next week. More on that in a little bit. Temperatures still in the 80s here across most of the area. Some upper 70s, Prestonsburg, Pikeville, mid 70s in Wise, and again across the state to 80s basically across the board except for Huntington, West Virginia at 79. As we go into the rest of the evening hours, sunny skies, clear skies overnight, and temperatures not as cold as they have been, or at least cool, I could put it that way, as they have been for the last few days. I'll talk about the extended forecast, including our next best chances for rain coming up here in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, thank you, Brandon. A family in the McAndrews community of Pike County is trying to figure out what's next after a tree fell right through their home Tuesday night. Today they are still cleaning up and making plans for the future. WYMT's Buddy Forbes spoke to the family, who says they just feel blessed to be alive.
But the roof and the ceiling was the best part of the house.
Susie Bowman and her husband have lived in their McAndrews home since they built it more than 30 years ago.
It's a lot of memories.
Until Tuesday, when something happened that uprooted their lives.
So I jumped up and he hollered, "Help me."
She says she heard a loud noise followed by her husband's calls. She then stumbled through the darkness, eventually walking through glass.
Finally got to the doorway and I said, "What happened?" He said, "That old big tree out there fell on us."
The Bowmans soon realized that their home had been split in two by a fallen tree.
I could see that the ceiling was down in the living room where he was. And I said, "Can you get out?" And he said, "Give me just a minute." And I think he slid down out of his recliner and crawled out of there.
Susie said everyone got out safely, which was her main concern.
Another 6 to 12 inches to the right, and a good chance me and him both wouldn't have survived.
And if it had to happen, she's glad it happened when it did.
My grandbaby boy, he'd been staying with us, and he had been sleeping on that couch. And I said, I thank God that he wasn't here that night.
Because the memories in the house were great, but her family means everything to her.
We got family, we stick together, we'll get through this. But just trying to keep everything together, it's been difficult.
And a home.
Another place come by. God bless me with something more, probably better.
Can be created anywhere. In Pike County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
The family says they hope to eventually build a tiny house. They know it's not the material things that matter. An iconic symbol in Floyd County is now on the move to a new home. Crews spent much of the afternoon removing the Abraham Lincoln statue from the property of Eric C. Kahn's old law office. Jerry Flannery bought the statue earlier this summer and donated it to the fiscal court. It will soon be moved to the Middle Creek battlefield.
Eric Kahn would just be a blip in history. This will be over in, a few years. Abe Lincoln's going to be around hundreds of years for what he's accomplished and done for this country. And he is a native of Kentucky. Abraham Lincoln was born in the state of Kentucky. So I can't think of a better place to put the statue than the Middle Creek battlefield.
County officials hope it will provide even more context to the historical site. Today, attorneys for Black Jewel miners filed a class action lawsuit in federal court. The lawsuit takes aim at unpaid wages, lost benefits, and the fact miners received no notice they would lose their jobs. Meanwhile, Kentucky's Attorney General Andy Beshear is in Harlan today, and he is investigating any wrongdoing by the company and its former owner, Jeffrey Hoops. WYMT's Emily Bennett is there.
I'm outside at the Harlan County Courthouse where Attorney General Andy Beshear is meeting with Black Jewel coal miners. He's taking their questions about payments that they are not receiving. Beshear's office has been investigating the missing paychecks. He's also looking into the payroll deductions from benefits such as 401ks and child support. These payments have been taken out of their paychecks, but the money did not go where it was supposed to. Beshear is asking the miners to write handwritten statements about the missing deductions so he can give them to his investigators.
Hoping to find out more of a time frame on when we can actually see our money that is already owed to us. At this point, I'm already owed 22 days that I have actually worked, and the last pay that or money that I received from the company was, well over 40 days ago.
Now, we will be talking to Beshear about his plan of action. We'll have more on that at 11. In Harlan County, Emily Bennett, WYMT Mountain News.
Emily, thank you. Also today, we learned someone in Irvin donated $10,000 for the children of Black Jewel miners. We hope to learn soon how that money will be used. There will also be a job fair next week specifically for Black Jewel miners. Fluor and United Infrastructure Group is looking for 25 to 35 miners. They will work on a 4-year highway expansion project in Asheville, North Carolina. The fair is August 1st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have more information on those jobs at WYMT.com. Kentucky's 2 U.S. senators are hoping to give bourbon makers a boost. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Rand Paul co-sponsored the Aged Spirits Act. It would make permanent a provision in the tax code that's about to expire. The bill would allow distilleries to deduct interest expenses from aging bourbon instead of waiting until the bourbon is bottled and sold.
Forecast as we head into the afternoon hours and evening hours, fairly nice. We'll track it out for you coming up.
But first, a Pike County teen lost her battle with leukemia yesterday. How you can help the family during this tough time.